As COVID-19 comes to a stagnant drawback and businesses begin to reopen, restaurants around Georgia, those who have survived, are attempting to regain traction and get back on their feet. As Restaurant Rapport, we are striving to help those local businesses reach their full potential, and as well as set the standard to clean up their review mishaps that could damage their business. At Restaurant Rapport, we believe in building community rapport one restaurant at a time. We founded Restaurant Rapport in 2021, and we began as a group of college groupmates conducting a business project for the preservation of local restaurant excellence. Primarily, we all understood and saw the first-hand effects that the COVID-19 pandemic had on these local businesses, and we wanted to rectify it. So creating these business partnerships and relationships establishes the backbone of what we do and why we do it. Having our goals in mind, we hope that Burke's Grill is happy to welcome their current analysis of their restaurant in good heart, as we hope the following criticisms will help their sustainability and growth in the future. My name is Colin Chambers, an account executive for the Restaurant Rapport. I use my role to reach out to companies interested in looking to improve their overall restaurant business and create analyses to help them overcome their problems in operation. In my first year at this company, I've completed 7 out of our 50 annual reported company reviews and have average contribution growth rate of 11.5% in sales on the completed inquiries at those local Georgian restaurants so far. Using my experience living in West Metro Atlanta, being an avid consumer of local food businesses, I have been able to make more curated and cultural recommendations to these areas to give more specific feedback to the market they reside in. And having this experience available is crucial to keep these businesses up to speed with current market behaviors, sociological changes, as well as political activity in the area regarding their safety in the market. And this may include specifics on why they make changes specifically for their region, but most of the time it will be decisions that they make as a business to become better at what they do. Burke's Grill is a diner/grill hybrid restaurant, and it's the restaurant that I'm reviewing today in this analysis. And since 2012, Burke's has been serving locals of Douglasville with quality Southern cooking and drilling specials. But with almost a decade of making themselves known in the area, the competition for Burke's Grill is not easy to overcome. One of the extreme advantages that many other diners in the area have over the grill is that its location is not good. Bankhead Diner is on the main road going downtown through Douglasville. Another one is Gabe's Downtown, and it is similar to that restaurant that is also located on the downtown strip and offering the best possible location for customers such as visitors, locals, and city workers that also work nearby. And today I'll be focusing on how Burke's can fix its current issues to create its best experiences possible to drive consumers to make a few more minutes of a commute to make the best Burke's Grill can offer. Today we'll start with Burke's Grill's strengths, and one of their very solid strengths that they have is their specials and their menu items. Generally, it's the most commonly praised things out of all of the reviews that I looked at. Generally, one of the highlights that I saw was the surf and turf ribeye steak combination. It comes with grilled or fried shrimp that is very well seasoned and a very well cooked 12-ounce steak. And generally, it also comes with, I think, 2 sides. One, generally, people will always pick the macaroni and cheese. That second side will generally always go with some sort of vegetable. Their breakfast menu is also very solid. A lot of their entrees are complemented with gravy and biscuits. The gravy and biscuits are generally always a hit. I saw very few reviews with the gravy being a miss, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But specials such as these and menu items such as these, and specifically the brunch menu for that area, is crucial to bring in morning business, but what they need to focus on more is going to be their lunch and dinner, which also seems to be pretty solid, but we'll go over some of the weaknesses of that menu later. Another one of Burke's Grill's strengths is how foundationally solid their southern entrees are leading for this particular grill. When you're in this area, when you're in West Metro Atlanta, or really anywhere in Metro Atlanta, and you're in a suburban type area such as Douglasville, your Southern cooking skills need to be on point, and Burke's Grill seems to have hit this pretty well. Burke's constant praise for their fried chicken in many reviews also hit very well on their mashed potatoes, and their black-eyed peas, in a review such as Natalie Herbst, she seems to compliment the black-eyed peas as well, which does come up in other reviews. It shows their dedication to ensuring that Southern cooking is met with the greatest standard possible, and it seems like they try to keep that very consistent, especially with their main cooks. They know how to cook Southern cooking. Very common review. Many others, such as Natalie's, but this is the one that I saw come up the most. Another strength that Burke's Grill has is how solid their main cooks are. This does come with a lashback we'll talk about later, but particularly these reviews and another review like Tankhead Moe's is that their main floor cooks, whether it's generally around the brunch or the dinner time, are very, very solid and tend to be very consistent on their portions, how things are seasoned, and how well they put out entrees in a timely manner. Reviews like this are generally pretty good, but the only thing that it hurts about these types of reviews is specifically that the reviewers are talking about the main cooks. And this is where we're going to kind of lead into our weaknesses. It's not one of the main weaknesses, but you can see how this will tie into everything else at the very end. So now this is where we get to the point of Burke's weaknesses. When you're confronting the issue of distance in the downtown part of Douglasville, Burke's Grill is probably a few minutes away south of Douglasville, of downtown Douglasville. And some businesses like Burke's need to have a very strong online order presence to be able to meet the demands of consumers generally in the younger age area, but can sometimes be within just the workers in downtown Douglasville. Personally in Hiram, when I worked in Hiram, which is relatively about 20 to 30 minutes away, one thing that you saw a lot in areas with high working or a lot of businesses around is that when workers go take their breaks, if you're able to do a very solid job at online ordering apps, then you will have repeat customers every single time. It's very important that you make that presence. But unfortunately for Burke's Grill, there are a lot of reviews from various apps that show inconsistencies with how they carry out their orders. Generally, these are time frame issues with how slow the foods are, and because of that, generally that food gets cold. And then one of the more commonly brought up, but there are some issues with how that can be fixed, is small portion issues. You can only do so much about that, but it does come up pretty often in these weakness reviews. Some could say that the online orders could be negatively impacted by the middleman and service involved in delivery. But because of the frequency of the reviews that I saw with this restaurant in particular, there's something that I've decided to note because it's of the location disadvantages to the larger consumer population. So this is something similar to what I was talking about when you need to get to a larger consumer base, but you are not on that main mode of transportation. So when you're not in the strip of Douglasville, when you're not on that main road, it can hurt you really badly if you can't do online orders strong enough. And that's something that Burke's Grill sort of lacks. So although we were just talking about how portions and online orders can sometimes not be rectified, and the nature of the order, because of where the origin of how it's being ordered, it changes things. Customers also frequently complain about dine-in portions, which is something that you need to be solid on. Some reviewers, such as Tammy here, said that even with steak and mashed potatoes, which is actually one of their star entrees when it comes to lunch and dinner time, that they always generally come with gravy, came with none at all. And there were actually quite a bit of reviews. Sometimes this would happen in breakfast time, sometimes it would happen in brunch time, and then if somebody ordered a steak in dinner time and they asked for gravy, sometimes they just wouldn't get any. I'm not sure if it's a production line issue. I don't know if they're like not keeping up with a reserve of gravy to come with certain dishes, but if you are going to attempt to have Southern cooking as one of your main like entree drivers and specials, You need to have consistency with not only portions of certain foods, which macaroni and cheese and some vegetables also hit the mark on some of these negative reviews in terms of portions. They were getting too small. But even just gravy, even the small condiments, which for Southern cooking, gravy is actually very big, you need to hit that mark. And unfortunately, Burke's Grill seems to have an issue here with that as well. The final weakness I have is probably one of the most concerning that I've seen come across Burke's so far. Although there are very few reviews of this, even one safety issue review is enough to warrant a call to action. One customer noted out of these two reviews on multiple occasions during a visit seeing roaches nearby or on the table. Another customer said they used to be a longtime fan until their family got food poisoning from one visit as well. And even though there are some gaps in these reviews that span about anywhere from 6 months to a year between each safety and health review that I saw, issues like this arising can cause some legal issues, and they need to uphold a very strict health and safety standard if they want to, one, keep their viability in the long term, and two, to avoid legal issues. And not to mention the fact that if Burke's Grill wants to compete with closer downtown Douglasville restaurants, this needs to be a foundational weakness that they should not have. These should be a pro. They should be outstanding with safety and health issues. But small things like this, if that comes up on a review site, generally that's devastating, and consumers will go to the next best available and their competitors in downtown Douglasville. So for Burke's Grill, the strengths are very good. We saw a lot of consistency with how their food was made and how their cooks operated, things such in that nature. But for these weaknesses, I believe for them to be crucial to the stability and for their further expansion into the market, they have to get these things under control. So for them to keep up the pace, to stay relevant and grow their customer base, these things need to be changed. So next, I will specifically give recommendations to remedy these issues and to further highlight some of the threats that Burke's will need to look out for continuing into the market after they change the things that need to be changed. So for the opportunities for Burke's Grill, number one, because of the common trend of how consistent that their main cooks are, Burke should make some time for those part-time cooks to specifically be trained by the main cooks. We went over this earlier. Even though there are a lot of good reviews about how good the main cooks are, that's the word that we were looking at, the main cooks. It can be seen as a strength and a weakness for a review like that. And for that reason, the first thing that I say for an opportunity, take a day out of the year. Restaurants can take days for maintenance and to repair things and things such as that. You don't have to take those days off for your employees. Make that day a training day. Have your main cooks come in and train your part-time cooks. It's a very good way for them to stay consistent and to see how the foundational cooks make their days more consistent when it comes to delivering for the customer. Number two, with how many portion issues, both online and dine-in, there should be requirements for how portion weighing should be implemented. If there needs to be a weigh-in system, if there needs to be a count system for how many of a specific unit should be put on a plate, it needs to be there to help be consistent and to not upset the customers by throttling their buying power for how much of the food that they are getting, that they are ordering. And number three, keep the restaurant and its patrons safe. This is not super drastic. It's not like Burke's Grill is actively having safety issues every day, but those reviews that are there and haven't been answered, I recommend that Burke's go out of their way and one, when any other safety and health issue comes up in a review, to respond to that review. And I also would recommend that Burke's go out of their way to either go internally and hire someone or have the owner do a health and safety audit himself every quarter, or hire an external company to do a health and safety audit every quarter. You do have health inspectors that do come in, and they are obviously high enough to get that safety score to stay in business, but to prevent further reviews such as these, there needs to be some auditing, and I would recommend at least quarterly until you see these reviews start to die down over every year or so. And then once you see that goal be met, you could probably do semi-annually or annually. Whether it's executives, whether it's main cooks, or whether it's even the owner themselves, the health and safety with the food and its environment has to be kept up to a standard to even be able to compete with other restaurants in the market. Now we come to the threats for Burke's Grill, and some of these are going to seem familiar, but there is a trend that comes along with them. And that main threat, the number one threat that I will continue to express, is that distance. Burke's Grill needs to make up for how far away they are from downtown Douglasville. And even though it's only a few minutes away, for everyday sales, it can make or break how many customers go out of their way to get over to this restaurant over ones that are already in downtown. So they must cater to online orders better, and they must bring up their reviews as high as they can to make a reason for those customers to come to Burke's over the ones that are already in downtown Douglasville. My second primary threat is if Burke's is not careful with their health and safety in the future, legal issues could destroy the entire business. Honestly, it could do it just in an instant. If one review goes out of control, or if somebody decides to take it to a health board and have a inspection done just in case there are outbreaks such as roaches that we discussed and things such as that. It's one of the foundations that restaurants must uphold to keep their viability in the market, and neglecting that can be very drastic for a business such as Burke's. My threat number 3 is that Burke's is very vulnerable to losing out to diners and grills from quality assurance, portion issues, and the value to the customers. So regardless of even the distance, even if Burke's was in downtown Douglasville, if it cannot compete with the quality of its other competitors with these issues that come up pretty often, that it will lose out in the long-term sales, and it will lose out in the almost decade that they've created a standing within the community. And just those threats alone, regardless of the distance, regardless of the code that they're in, regardless of the people that are around them, the neighborhoods that are around them, it needs to be addressed. Otherwise, they will lose out on the market as a whole. And here we have a condensed SWOT analysis graph of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. As a takeaway for the strengths, very, very solid specials that they have, very solid entrees as well. The foundational Southern entrees kind of goes with the specials in previous, but having that foundational Southern cooking is a very good strength that they have. And they're well-trained main cooks. Their main cooks are very, very consistent. They do a very good job at being on the floor at those peak hours and do a good job at keeping the pace when it comes to heavy traffic. The weaknesses, we were talking about inconsistent online orders, having issues with such as Uber and DoorDash, particularly within the reviews that we saw. It needs to be addressed if they want to stay in the viability of the market considering where they are. Small portion sizes, this was online and dine-in, but specifically dine-in, this is a very big issue, and it needs to be addressed to make sure that the customers are getting what they paid for and the value that they paid for it. Another weakness that we saw was health and safety issues. I say frequent, but when we're talking about frequent, if it's happening anywhere from a 6-month to a year period, as what we saw in reviews, and there may have been more because not everybody reviews, right? If it's happening that often, then it needs to be addressed. One safety and health issue can make or break a restaurant in terms of legal issues. Opportunities, cross-training the main cooks with part-time cooks. We were talking about this earlier with the main cooks is a good strength, but we need to have all of our cooks up to date. Add weighted portion requirements for cooks to follow, whether that's a mandated pound requirement, whether that's a mandated per product, per X amount of portions. It seems to be inconsistent, and there's enough reviews to warrant that a change needs to be made for how portions for food is gone about. Create quarterly health and safety audits. This is what I was talking about just before this. Frequently health and safety issues. If we need to start making quarterly health and safety audits, that's what Burke's Grill should be doing, and that's what I would recommend right off the bat. Is I would be doing internal quarterly health audits to find out if we need to call in exterminators, if we need to, patch up places that may be growing mold. Although I didn't see anything with the concerns to mold, I'm just bringing things, that I think you would need to check for within a quarterly health and safety audit. Things like that are very important. Threats further away from downtown than other diners. This is the most important part that I'm going to keep drilling over and over. If they want to stay viable, they have a 10-year standard that they've put up with. But if they do not catch up with online orders, with the other issues that they just have as just a general restaurant, then they won't be able to keep up with the market. And possible legal issues with health and safety. We were just talking about that earlier. That's why I recommend those quarterly audits. Legal issues is one, your viability in the market is another. But another thing is, we care about our customers. We want to make sure everybody is healthy and safe as possible. Possible loss on order out customers. That's what we were talking about before because you're so far away from downtown Douglasville, you need to be good on your order out customers as well. So in conclusion to this analysis of Burke's Grill, this kind of shows firsthand how much information you can get from online reviews. Not only from Google, you can go to places like Yelp. You can even go to places like those online apps like DoorDash and online apps like Uber. These apps do have review parts to their delivery system, and that's actually good as well because people actually forget about those apps. But if you were to go in and you are an order out customer, it can actually show you what the response times and what the quality is like from those restaurants that you may not see on other review sites, because most of the other review sites are going to be dine-in reviews. But for Burke's Grill, as a takeaway, the main threat is how easily they can slip away from the reputation, even though they're long-standing. And if they don't embrace getting more involved in the delivery services to close the distance, and if they don't clear up the other problems that they have in terms of health and safety, portion issues, etc., then they will lose out on the majority of the customers in downtown Douglasville. But I did thoroughly enjoy reviewing Burke's Grill. Douglasville is my hometown, and showing cultural and historical icons from many years ago, along with beautiful architecture and a diversity of culinary experiences, downtown Douglasville is a place I would visit. The same for Burke's Grill. And if you would like to contact us at Restaurant Rapport for a review or help to ensure your restaurant's local shine, you can contact us at 678-134-2345, or you can email me personally at colin.chambers@restaurantrapport.com. And finally, here at Restaurant Rapport, here is our farewell gift today for all who attended this analysis. We're offering you a Restaurant Rapport branded keychain. But thank you for your time, and please contact me at the number or email provided below. Thank you guys so much.